I watched some really crazy movies in October and I need to talk about them. Spooky season is a great time to rewatch or discover new titles in the darker genre. And whilst I watched a lot of movies this month, these are the ones that stood out to me as the most crazy, insane, impressive, or just plain psycho. Let me know down below if you've seen any of these and what you watched this spooky season, what got under your skin. I would love to know. Despite my love of Aussie horror, I had not seen this one, but my husband had, and he didn't really prepare me for the insanity that was to come with this 2009 film. That's right, I'm talking about The Loved Ones. When Brent turns down his classmate Lola's invitation to the prom, she concocts a wildly violent plan for revenge. Even reading that logline is giving me chills. I'm not going to say any more here about the plot because if you haven't seen this one, definitely better to, I don't know, is it better to go in blind? Oh God, this one is so horrific, guys. I don't want to spoil the fun for any of you who haven't seen it, but be warned, this one is really, really intense. It was intense beyond what I thought it was going to be. The Loved Ones just does not let up. And when you think it can't get worse, it really does. It's extremely violent to the point where I was just wanting it to end. The end is very satisfying and overall it's super well done. The performances, the way it's shot and it's done on quite a low budget, it's really, really impressive. So there was a lot that I liked about it. It was just so violent and it just really, really made me feel sick. It was the kind of film that you kind of curl up on the couch and sit there grimacing over every part. And I was saying to my husband, why did you suggest this? Why didn't you prepare me? And he somehow just didn't remember that it was this nightmarish and awful. The Loved Ones for me was akin to the feeling that you get watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre when they are in the house. Just that creepy, skin-crawling feeling of totally fucked up people inflicting pain on a victim and really thoroughly enjoying it is just so disturbing. Something about Aussie horrors, they're just so brutal. There's no reprieve. There is like a sideline story that's going on between another couple that doesn't really seem to link up with anything that's going on, but I didn't care because that was literally the only time there was any relief from the violence and the torture. This was just like full pelt, like balls to the wall, just sicko kind of movie. It's definitely a one-time watch situation for me. And whilst I didn't really find any sort of overall message or reasoning behind the film's content, I did think that it was well done, well shot, well acted and executed, but I'm unsure there was a need for this film to exist outside of those things when it comes to disturbing cinema. I didn't really glean much from the narrative. I'm not sure if I'm missing something here. Obviously we have the heartbreak and love hurts, I guess, but to me, it just felt like a really fucked up movie, which that's fine if you want to make a fucked up movie, but I'm at a stage in my life where there has to be kind of something else there for me. And whilst it was well done, there just didn't really seem to be like a reasoning behind it. So I did struggle a little bit with The Loved Ones. But if you like that kind of thing, you've got a strong stomach, things don't bother you. Maybe some of you are like, The Loved Ones, that was a breeze. That was easy to get through. The director, Sean Byrne, is no stranger to horror. He did the more recently released Dangerous Animals, which I haven't seen yet, but I've heard really good things. I did, when I saw the trailer for that, think, will I be able to kind of get through this successfully? So I'll keep you posted on that one if I do watch it. Next up is the 2016 Mexican film We Are the Flesh. After wandering a ruined city for years in search of food and shelter, two siblings find their way into one of the last remaining buildings. Inside, they find a man who will make them a dangerous offer to survive the outside world. This one was decidedly not for me, and that's for a few reasons. I found it on Mubi and I thought it sounded right up my alley, the plot line and the fact that it said it was very much a taboo, provocative film and that the director was following in the footsteps of directors like Lars von Trier or Gaspar Noé. both of whom I really love. So I was really excited for this one. I thought, I think this is going to be a winner because visually from the trailer, it looked really good too. It intrigued me, but ultimately it fell flat. The opening scene was so promising. Honestly, it was so good. And I was feeling like that feeling you get where you're like, yes, this is the one. But it just didn't really give us any context to the outside world and how we got here in this sort of apocalyptic situation that seemed so dire. It didn't even have any explanation of some of the other really interesting plot points and rules of this world. He was seemingly kind of supernatural and interacting and feeding something else, like feeding food to something, but we never really found out what that was. Maybe we weren't meant to. It was one of those films where it ends and you're kind of like, did I just miss something? Is it me? And then you go on the internet looking for answers and then you find some because someone has managed to interpret it. But then you think, does that really forgive its complete lack of narrative and explanation? I don't think that you should have to go searching really deeply for answers after a movie, because if someone asked me what it was about, I just couldn't even tell you. Instead, it took us on a voyage of visually stunning shots that were followed by every taboo under the sun, which got kind of obnoxious. It didn't really have much impact. It felt like they were just throwing everything they could think of at the movie that was going to be shocking, that it then lost its impact. I did read that was the point. It was kind of like, if anyone knows the story behind the Tool song Stinkfist, it was kind of like that kind of thinking around it. And I could maybe see that, but it didn't come through or land in the film at all. It felt like it was trying too hard to be what it was inspired by. It's a shame because it had really good elements. Visually, definitely, it was stunning and I really enjoyed the way they'd shot a lot of the taboo sexual scenes. The lighting, very interesting, very avant-garde, and the performances were really great too. These would have been tough scenes to do. I just felt like I was on a train going in the wrong direction and I could see the other train that I was meant to get on that was meant to go where I was meant to go, but I was stuck on this one going somewhere else. And I was like, no, the whole time, if that makes any sense. If you do like very taboo, like very sexually explicit, and there was some very graphic violent scenes too, then definitely check it out just for that aspect to add to your taboo list. But yeah, ultimately wouldn't recommend it and didn't think that it did the job. Next up is a film that is more mainstream, I would say, and that is The Killing of a Sacred Deer. Yorgos Lanthimos is one of my favorite directors right now, and I've been rewatching his filmography in the lead up to seeing Begonia, which I do have a review for if you want to check it out. I love that he pushes the envelope so much. After rewatching all of his films, I can definitely say for me personally, The Killing of a Sacred Deer is by far the most disturbing in his filmography. Dr. Stephen Murphy is a renowned cardiovascular surgeon who presides over a spotless household with his wife and 2 children. Lurking at the margins of his idyllic suburban existence is Martin, a fatherless teen who insinuates himself into the doctor's life in gradually unsettling ways. I saw this in theaters back in 2017 when it was released because I was such a big fan of Dogtooth. And I remember I had a gripe with it. I can't remember what it was, but I don't remember being really deeply disturbed, which is in such stark contrast to watching it this October. I am now a mother and I just found this just so difficult to watch. Upon rewatching, I think it's a marvelous piece of cinema. It's ticking all of the boxes. I really can't fault this film for the main aspects we judge cinema on, but the unease here and the harm to the children I just found particularly difficult to sit through. And obviously this is very deeply personal. It's really got nothing to do with the film itself or Yorgos or anything like that. I think what disturbed me on top of the movie being, very disturbing, the performance, particularly from Barry Keoghan here, is so chilling. I would go as far as to say his performance is one of the best villains we've ever seen on screen. But what disturbed me more, or on top of the already disturbing content, was the fact that I felt so differently watching this as a parent. And I think that is what's so interesting about cinema, is that our own personal experiences or where we're at right now can make us interact with a piece of cinema completely differently. And it goes to show you how in the past I have thought one way about a movie and someone said, I didn't like it, or, I felt traumatized, or, oh, I couldn't sit through that and I didn't understand. And I feel like it gave me a little bit more empathy for maybe how certain people might feel about films like Irreversible, that as a young person, I watched and liked. So this changed my whole kind of paradigm for disturbing movies, because I put this on like, yeah, it's just a Yorgos film, I'll enjoy it. And it really broke me and my husband, and it made me feel quite sick seeing these children decline in health, the parents being so helpless, the end scene, like towards the end, it just really irked me. And not in a way that I was like, ooh, in a way that I was like, I really don't want to watch the rest of this film. So for me, that is not one I'll be revisiting. Although I will say I absolutely loved the very Kubrickian cinematography in this. I think it's maybe one of my favorite Yorgos cinematography moments. I really, really, really liked the way it looked, and I thought the performances were excellent. Definitely from Nicole Kidman. I'd like to see her in more of his films, because I think she suits that cold, stiff, deadpan Yorgos vibe. Let's alleviate some suffering and talk about the 2016 visual masterpiece, The Love Witch. A modern-day witch uses spells and magic to get men to fall in love with her, with deadly consequences. I had seen excerpts of this film on social media pop up constantly, and I just assumed that it was a 60s film because it looks so convincingly like a 1960s Technicolor film. This one is going on my insane October list, not because it's anything like the previous ones mentioned. It is not like violent or, particularly disturbing or anything like that. It's a fairly easy watch in comparison to the other things I've mentioned, but it is insane because of the dedication to just the overall look and feel of this film. I mean, oh my God, when was the last time you put something on and watched something that was just such a visual feast, and where everyone has come together to replicate a look, costume-wise, even the performances, that very presentation style of performance that you would have seen in those older kind of movies. And then on top of that, it throws in like very comedic elements of kind of making fun of like the male gaze, but doing it in a way that's entertaining and enjoyable. I think it didn't feel like it was, poking the bear too much. The Love Witch was shot on 35mm film and printed from an original cut negative. And I read that it was the last film to ever go through that process. I researched a little bit more because I was so intrigued as a photographer who used to shoot a lot of film but doesn't now because it's too expensive, just how they got this look, the colors, and then also the lighting, because it's got that old, harsh Hollywood style of lighting. And turned out it was M. David Mullen, who is an expert on period cinematography, who did this one. And honestly, it's just scary, the level of precision and accuracy for this style that they've been able to cultivate here. We then have the costumes and the makeup, which are absolutely incredible. So cool. I read that the director spent a whole year making the costumes for the carnival scene, which blew my mind. I just love reading about people who are willing to totally dedicate themselves to just, one thing, be it a film or music or whatever it is, just to bring it to life exactly the way that they had envisaged it and just, really go all in. I finally got around to watching the 2018 film Mandy that I have been so curious about. A lot of people who know me well have been saying that I would enjoy it from a visual aspect. So I finally got to watch it this spooky season. The Shadow Mountains, 1983. Red and Mandy lead a loving and peaceful existence, but when their pine-scented heaven is savagely destroyed, Red is catapulted into a phantasmagoric journey filled with bloody vengeance and laced with fire. Unfortunately, Mandy didn't come together quite as well as I had hoped, but in saying that, I didn't not like it. There was a lot to love here, and there was a lot to appreciate. There was a lot of good ingredients, but I think just the execution maybe just wasn't quite there. We could have killed a lot of darlings here. We could have reduced the runtime, and we maybe could have just brought together the really great ideas that were in Mandy. Like it was all there, but it was kind of just like, how do we have a through line for it all? How do we make this more accessible and entertaining for the audience? Or how do we take some things out and just sort of like keep it more simple and focused maybe? Mandy also made me realize that we all prioritize different things in movies. Some people want to just be entertained. Some people want to be challenged. And then there's people like me who can really appreciate something purely from a visual standpoint. And that can really bump up how much I like it, even if the narrative is lacking. And that's definitely the case here with Mandy. What I liked the most was the lighting. I loved how unrealistic the lighting was. And I wish that more directors would do that and not be hung up on making things make sense and using something like lighting like they did in The Love Witch with that harsh lighting to create a look. In Mandy, they've used a lot of red and then they'll change it into green, and it's like it makes no sense, but it's so cool. And movies are a place for you to really experiment and do whatever you want. So I think Mandy is a 10 out of 10 in that way, in that the director, he was like, you know, this is what I want this world to look like, and he created it and brought it to life. So in that, I really appreciated it, but there was just too many elements going on. You know, we had the cult leader and his followers, and then his kind of supernatural element. We then had these like otherworldly demon bikers, which were cool, but I was like, how do they link up? And then we had crazy Nick Cage, who's, you know, on this like John Wick rampage, and all of a sudden is like a weapon, which was fine because I was like, you get him, Nick Cage. And I think he was really good. I really enjoyed. I would have liked to have seen more of him going crazy like he did in that bathroom scene in his underwear. It just felt like it didn't necessarily really go anywhere, and I wasn't really sure what it was trying to do or say, but I didn't really mind. I just think that Mandy was asking a lot of its audience, and I felt very untethered a lot of the time while I was watching it, to the point where I nearly kind of gave up and just enjoyed the visuals. I enjoyed Nick Cage, you know, at the end with the chainsaw and like the campness of it, I guess. All right, guys. So let me know below what you think of these, if you've seen them. Also, let me know what you watched this spooky season. If you have any recommendations for me, because I've kind of given you a little bit of an insight into like what I'm looking for, what I'm not looking for, and what I like. If you are new to the channel, welcome. I do recaps like this, listicles, and also review new movies that I'm interested in. So hit subscribe if you want to join me here. Comment below and let's chat. Give this a thumbs up if you liked it, and I will see you guys in the next one.